Hello, Ileana. Nice to have you with us.
Hi, Evie.
Thank you.
Evie Lola, how I call you. I love to call you Evie.
Thank you so much for joining the Women in Engineering, Energy, and Entrepreneurship conversation. And thank you for volunteering to have this chat with me to encourage the young girl child in STEM to probably follow your career path or chat something similar. Thank you so much, Ileana.
Thank you for you and I mean, this is a wonderful opportunity. I always like to have these chances to, to motivate, encourage, kind of make people find that passion that is what it's really lead us to where we want to go. If you don't have that passion, then I think we all are dry. So anything that can be done or said to spark that passion in people, I'm all in.
Thank you so much, Ileana. Now, I would like to run through a few questions, and I'd like us to be as informal as possible so that those who watch this video will learn something very personal as opposed to official. So I'm going to start with, where are you located now, and how long have you been there?
Well, I'm physically based in Houston, Texas, in the north, in a suburb called the Woodlands. And I've been living here since 2005, actually, when I moved from Phoenix after doing my MBA at Thunderbird in Phoenix. So I'm originally from Caracas, Venezuela. And so, but I moved here in 2003.
Fantastic. That's really interesting to know that you've moved a few countries and locations. So could you tell me something about yourself, something more personal, nothing to do with your profession or your career, something a young girl child can connect with?
Good. Well, I'm a dreamer. I believe in visualizing what you see is where I'm gonna go. So I always been like a daydreamer, and it works because everything I have dreamed of being or doing, I have done it. Of course, it takes time and effort, but I'm a mom of two girls, and I always wanted to have children. Actually, I wanted to have two daughters, and that's what God gave me, two wonderful daughters that I'm so proud of. And my husband is American, and we met at graduate school. He speaks perfect Spanish with Venezuelan accent, so that was a great thing. We say that the way we met, it was destiny. It was meant to be. I'm a crazy, crazy dog person. Actually, I have three dogs, and everybody that knows me have heard them, even Maya snoring or barking, and I have Lola and Buster. So three dogs, and I can have more, but my husband doesn't allow me. I have a brother who lives in the Netherlands. He's a musician, so I have enjoyed also that part of my brother. Both my parents were professional. My mom was an architect, and my dad is a surgeon. Here we're retired. But I saw always my parents go to work in the morning, and we stay with my grandma. I have a lot of influence from my mom's family, because she comes from a family with a very strong matriarch. So my grandma was really a queen, and I have now all my aunts, and I was the only granddaughter from my mom's family. So I think it's all passing through all these generations. So very, very influenced by how women have been thriving throughout, our generations. Also in my country, where women, are fighters, are very strong, and really they're the ones that run the houses and everything. So that's kind of me. I always loved being in the development environment. So it's one of my dream is to one day be at the United Nations, not necessarily working, but every time I see someone speaking from in the United Nations, I always say, I'll be there one day. Doesn't matter how or what, but I'll be sitting there, and everybody that knows me will see she did it, she made it. And so it's kind of like my my ultimate goal, because if I'm there, it's because my message is going to go around the world. So that's, I mean, in a nutshell.
Fantastic. So what about schooling, and how did you navigate from primary to secondary to university, your career choices? How did you navigate that?
Well, interesting. I was born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela, and there's a lot of immigration in Venezuela in general. So I went to a German school from kindergarten through 12th grade, the equivalent of 12th grade here in the US. So elementary school, middle school, and high school in a German school. So where, of course, I had to learn German even before English. So 2 languages since I was 5. And that gave me actually develop a skill for languages. So I love learning languages. I love the structure of grammar, but I also see, composition and everything. So that led me actually to go and study languages at the university. I also had during high school, besides German, that you had to also take English, and then I went through kind of the arts or humanities path. You can go to science or humanities. So I chose humanities. So I saw Latin, French, and psychology and all that stuff. So I was very sure that I was not a STEM person. And but here's comes the interesting part. So I went to college and study languages for 5 years. In Venezuela, the careers are university degrees are 5 years. And so, and I said, well, I love languages, but I see that I need to have something else to work on with these languages. So yeah, I had the opportunity to choose either between business, translation, or teaching. So it says, well, let's go to business. So when I was in Venezuela, I left the internship to the last, and I said, well, whatever I go to in for an internship, I'm gonna stay. So my internship was for at the oil and gas company, the national oil company in Venezuela, and last minute they canceled it. And
Ooh.
so I was crazy looking for an internship, and I said, well, I'll do whatever. I just need to get my credit so I can graduate. And then I found a friend that actually got me a job in public relations in a international oil and gas company at that time in Venezuela. And so, not expecting, not having the plan, I end up in a STEM industry with a lot of STEM people. And I was, not STEM. So that was a big challenge. But here I am 20 something years later, I'm still in the same industry. And I proved myself and others that I didn't have to go to STEM to be able to work in this industry. Actually, it has been a great combination. So I'll tell you more. I'll let you ask you more questions, probably.
That's actually fantastic. So, I mean, you're the second person I'm interviewing that isn't an engineer or a STEM talent that has ended up in the energy or STEM industry. I think this is very interesting and exciting for those listening, because what I've learned is that one of the major ways of actually finding yourself sitting pretty comfortable in the energy, oil, and gas industry is having to pick up the language. But because you are good with languages, I'm sure that it wasn't too difficult for you to pick up the languages in the oil and gas industry. Can you tell me how you picked up the language in the oil and gas industry? Because I know there is a language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's interesting. You have that language, okay, the English or French or Latin or Onica, but then there's the oil and gas language, the lingo. And if you don't come from an engineering career, like everybody at my employer does something, what kind of engineer are you? And I say, well, I'm the language engineer, because there's a lot of structure and stuff, and what I found really amazing, how everything kind of got into pieces, is that engineers are really good at numbers and seeing, they're very, square. But, no offense, but there have challenges communicating and expressing what they see like this, because you can have it in your mind, you can do a formula, but how do you express that? So I found myself that I was kind of like my strength to be able to communicate and interpret and translate what engineers have done or wanted to do, and translate it into words, into ways to communicate that to different audiences. So that's where I realized, and I didn't realize that at the beginning of my career. It was really pretty much mid kind of to recently that that has been a strength, has been good for me to understand a world that it's not what I grew up like in engineers or numbers, but definitely I know how to capture the idea, the message, and help these engineers, help the industry to communicate that. So some people ask me, well, would you go back? What if you go back in time, and would you be an engineer? And I think I would still study languages, or I wanted to study international relations and be a diplomat. And I think it has been, I mean, I will do it all over again, because I have learned a lot from engineers. And being able to work with drillers and geologists, geophysicists has been also a learning process for me. And I'm very curious. I'm always learning or taking courses here and there, because I really want to understand, to be able to translate. The job of a translator, like a simultaneous translator, is very challenging. People sometimes underestimate that career, and you have to be really, really, quick in and think about what's the main idea in the context. So it's very difficult. So I kind of encourage engineers not to ever underestimate the job of a person that have the language skills. It's like switching. Can you switch to English, to German, to Spanish? And I've seen that it's hard, but once you start dreaming in that language, then you got it.
And I need to, at this point, say a big thank you to you for spending over 40 hours mentoring and coaching me on how to translate my mind into reality. So that's part of one of your skills. So well done, Ileana. So can you tell me what is most special about what you do, apart from helping people communicate more effectively, which is what you've done for me?
I think, and sometimes we don't like to brag about ourselves, because I mean, that's probably might sound like arrogant or no, but I think one of my treasures or gifts that I have is that I think I've always been a good listener. And in that, it's not something that you learn how to do it. It's something that you develop. It comes kind of from your heart. And once you know how to listen, or if you, it's not just about opening your ears, about opening your heart, because I'm very empathic. So I actually feel sometimes the joy or the pain of people when I'm listening to them. And that has allowed me the opportunity to understand that person or that role, that company. And if you're able to put in someone else's shoes, then you understand the problem or the objective, the goal, the project better. So I think that has been a big thing for me. And listening has allowed me also to give advice to people in different roles. I mean, from a new college graduate to people in high representative in the government. And you believe it or not, it's hard for even our own children to listen to that. So that has been, it's more challenging for me to give advice to my children so that they listen to me than other people. But I guess that's a mom's eternal challenge.
Thank you so much. That's very interesting. So how did you discover your love for engineering or energy or entrepreneurship? whichever is the most important to you. How did you discover your love for one of those, engineering, energy, or entrepreneurship, or two or three of them?
Yeah. Well, let me start with science in general. I always said that since I was a child, I always wanted to watch programs like National Geographic about volcanoes and earthquake, and and then in Venezuela you have really all kinds of terrain. So I was always looking at the mountains and saw the natural faults and the different type of rocks. So I would say that's fascinating. So and probably that would have been a parallel career. So always fascinated with that. Especially volcanoes, something fascination with volcanoes. Then with engineer, of course, as entering in the oil and gas industry, I learned about that there's more than civil engineers, which that's what I have some in my family. I have an uncle that is a civil engineer and another one that is an electrical engineer. And so, but not non-engineering in the oil and gas, even though, I mean, in Venezuela, there are so many. But being ExxonMobil allowed me to discover a lot of what engineers do, and I think it's fascinating. From simple things like a mechanical engineer, and just the fact of how you drill a well is so obvious, so mechanical. And of course, there's the technical part, which is very, very sophisticated. But it's drilling a hole in the ground. It doesn't get any complicated to understand the mechanics of that. And I would say entrepreneurship. When I met my husband and we were doing our MBAs, he chose to go to entrepreneurship. And so that's kind of okay. You actually learn the how to develop your own business, and what are the things that you have to go. I mean, start with the business plan. So academically, I had that information coming from my husband. And as soon as we graduated, my husband, the first thing he did is, well, I'm going to set up my own business. And it's hard. It's very hard. You have to dedicate a lot of hours, but it gives you a lot of freedom and opportunity to be with your family. So we had a really good balance. I'm in the corporate world from an 8 to 5 job, paycheck and then he has his own business, free time, or you can work anytime, but it's definitely more independent, but it has its risks. And so then I think the peak of my interest in the entrepreneurs is seeing all these women-owned business that I get to share with in as part of my job, seeing how all these women have an idea, in an idea that can be simply a piece of jewelry, or I don't know, just a notebook or marketing, or how they actually want to build their own business, and reach out to the big buyers, big companies. And that has been amazing. I admire all the energy and the courage that all these women have. And some of them actually need encouragement, need to have that confidence. And that's what I found, that there's a space, and there's that need to encourage women to have that confidence to do that. And if they're women in STEM, even more, because male-dominated industries can be very overwhelming and kind of scary for some women. So
Fantastic, fantastic. So I want to say a big thank you to you again for working with me on setting up the We Cubed LinkedIn group, which is for women in engineering, energy, and entrepreneurship. And apart from being a co-founder in setting up the LinkedIn group, what particular areas would you like to contribute your skills and your competencies in that particular group?
I enjoy, and I think it's something that makes me very passionate. It's to mentor, to coach young girls, either if they are kind of defining or trying to find out their own careers, or professional women that are entering through that path. into entrepreneurship and trying to help them overcome a little bit that fear, that lack of confidence that we have, that women have in everything. We like to question ourselves all the time. Am I able to do it? Or the typical example, you have a job application and they have the required skills, and we try to meet all of them. And we questions, no, I'm not, that's job, no, I cannot do that. And you need to leave some space and some room for learning. If you know have all the skills and everything, then you're just going to be adding what you have, but you're not learning anything. So it's good to have some skills or some areas that you don't meet. Otherwise, it's going to be boring. But men are different. Men have more confidence, and actually they think that they can do all of them and more. And they just, because they have that confidence that, well, no, if I don't, I can learn it. The thing that the typical thing of fake it till you make it, they just have it, ingrained in their neurons and all that. We like to question us a lot, and I think we need to work more on our fake it till you make it in from the beginning.
So that's really nice. Fake it till you make it. I think that's a tough one for most women. They don't
Yeah.
really want to fake anything. They just want to be real. So, and the men are masters of that game.
Yeah, but it's the same. I know a lot of people, a lot of women that they're not moms. They don't have children. They have pets, or they have parents. So I think the mother instinct comes up no matter what. It's something that every woman has a womb. Uh, so it's a thing that we don't fake being a mom. We don't fake having that instinct. So it comes. So why cannot we uh, expose that instinct in the saying that fake it till you make it is because there's a way you have to do it, and not pretending. I mean, we don't want to be liars or have a disguise, but it's the fake it till you make it is you have to see it, you have to ingrain it. And if it's the word, it means faking it, then fake it, but it's really internalize, see it, because that
Yeah.
power is in you. You're not an
More
imposter.
like believe in yourself, believe in
Exactly.
yourself,
Yeah.
believe in yourself. Yes. So okay, fantastic. I like that. I mean, we should believe in ourselves and just get on with the next step and not be scared about being the next version of yourself, and understanding you need to learn and develop yourself to be the next version of yourself, and getting on with the learning and development. I like that. So what are your thoughts on diversity? Diversity in the workplace, diversity in different cultures. What are your thoughts on diversity? And then you can end up looking at gender diversity, which is really one of the
Yeah.
areas where we're looking at women in engineering, energy, and entrepreneurship.
It's funny because I didn't realize I was immersed in diversity since pretty much I was in kindergarten. I went to school with, of course, um, with boys and girls. A lot of people in Venezuela girls go to girls schools and boys go to boys schools. So I went to both boys and girls. And so in a way I was used to playing with boys and girls, and that dynamic that I think it's different if you go just to only girls. So, but more than gender, it was about the different cultures. So I was with German kids that kind of look different. I mean, you see, I'm dark hair, brown eyes, curly hair. They were blonde, white, blue eyes. So I guess there was not really differences. We all felt the same. They have different cultures, different ways of being raised, different, even different food. I never ate like chocolate with bread like Nutella. So for breakfast, mine was, the typical dish, arepas and something with egg. So a lot of that diversity started in my life with different cultures. Then I would say that was kind of standard or normal, or until I went to college. even there, when of course, I chose to study modern languages. That's what's the name of the career. And it was in a private college. And then you have the engineering careers. And there was that stigma, or that saying from the engineers, male, that, oh, the girls that go to study languages is while I get married. So
Ah,
they used to tease us, oh, you're getting the while I get married degree. And it just really pissed me off so much that it was not. And of course, there were some girls that were with me that it was really, while they found a husband, probably engineers or business majors. But there were some that, like from my cohort, my group, all of us are working in multinational corporations. We have families, we have kids. So we kind of proved that no, we got our careers and then we got married and we have our kids. As I said before, we had three different majors that you could get in languages. One was teaching, translation, and business. So the teaching major was the one with few girls, because they really wanted to teach English. But us, we were kind of like, okay, I don't want to do what they say. I'm going to be like a teacher, and then while I get married and everything. So we kind of break a little bit. And there were so many bright women that graduated with me in my class, and so that I think we proved them wrong. So I think those career is if I get divorced instead of while I get married, because we became so successful that, I mean, we really have to depend to be married with a husband to take care of ourselves. We took care of ourselves. We came up really good professionals and successful business owners. So I'm really proud of all the women that actually graduated from languages. We prove a lot of people wrong.
that's fantastic, fantastic. And you seem to be, or you've proved to be a very resilient, dynamic, determined woman. And that's really the kind of woman we're trying to make role models for our young girls. But have you faced, or can you tell us about some issues, challenges, or problems you have been confronted with, and how you've shocked people around you or surprised even yourself? How you overcame them.
Yeah, I always tell people this story because it actually is one of the moments in my life that actually make me go up a step and kind of, you know, make a point without, without insulting or be offensive to anyone. And this could be, could have been anyone. But I remember in a meeting probably 10 years ago, where was one of my downs in my professional career. We all have up and downs. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm the best, I'm doing excellent. And sometimes you feel, well, I'm probably not that good. So I had to work a lot with drillers. And drillers are very tough people to work with. Very, very nice. I mean, very humble people in a way, positive, but very arrogant when it takes about showing knowledge of what they want. So we were in a meeting, and of course, I was one of the few women in that meeting. But I was I had a leading role in that project from my function. So so I was talking, and then I'm from Venezuela. I have an accent, and so some of these male drillers were making fun of my accent. I mean, something like, it's not to really make me feel bad, but it's, sometimes you make jokes just to be funny in front of people. But I didn't take it well because I study languages. So and it's not that, oh, I learned, I took a course, and so it really offended me in a way that I kind of stop and say, oh, so how do you say it? And then he corrected me, oh, okay. And then I said, well, I'm sorry, is sometimes because I study languages and I speak this and this and this and this, sometimes I confuse the accents, and I have to sometimes switch in what language I'm thinking. And then I asked, maybe you understand that. So how many languages do you speak? Knowing exactly that he doesn't, probably he only speak Texan. And then he said, oh, and he actually said, oh, I only speak Texan here. Oh, okay. So yeah, so I think the audience got the message and probably that person didn't, but I kind of stood up, kind of had that courage of conviction that the fact that you're an engineer doesn't mean that the fact that I'm not an engineer doesn't mean that I don't have the skills or not a smart person. So learning a language, for those that have the experience, it's very difficult, and your brain is developing a different way. So maybe the engineers have that brain, a side of the brain developing a way. Well, so those people that have languages and communicate. And also that part of emotional intelligence that people a lot of underestimate. I think it's very important, and usually people that have good communication skills have that also developed. So that was a really tough moment. I didn't want to offend anyone, and I was worried that I offended someone while the offended one was me. So after that, really, I said, I don't care if I pronounce things well, or, the typical example. And we make jokes in my family. They say, well, I'm going to jail, or I'm going to Yale. And I say jello, yellow, whatever. As long as you understand what I'm saying, I don't care. It's just a matter of context. So I have really funny stories about, the way I pronounce. But at the end, people get it. People know what I'm saying. And once you stop having that fear of making mistake, or if I'm doing it right or wrong, then it's kind of like you go up one step or several steps. So to me, that episode kind of made me go several steps above. And it was the last time someone made fun of someone's accent. So, and that taught me a lot of my self-confidence too. So I dare to say something and not to, say it back and don't say anything. Right now, you have to speak up.
I do understand. And I think when I moved from Nigeria to boarding school in England, I did go through people saying, come again, or what did you say? Or because we tend to speak faster. Mm-hmm. So I learned to speak slowly when I was in boarding school in England. When I come to Nigeria, I have to switch to speak my normal speed. But when I'm abroad, I need to slow down to get my point across because they can't understand fast English. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So well done. And how have you coped in a male-dominated sector and changing from one culture to another? How have you managed the transitions?
I think because I grew up in different cultures with different people, and that it wasn't hard for me, but I saw people struggling. Definitely the corporate culture was a shock for me when I moved to corporate environment in Venezuela, in corporate environment here in the US. I actually, when I went to Russia for an expat assignment, I feel more comfortable in that corporate environment, foreign environment, that even here in headquarters in Houston. Because in a way, we were foreign. We had a culture, and we had something in common, which was an affiliate. Where in corporate, I don't know, I felt like a little bit that I didn't belong. So that was a big challenge. How things like, okay, everybody came to work like at 6 a.m. and we're gone by 3. So, well, I'm not used to work from 6 a.m. to 3. I'm used to work from 8 to 5, and sometimes 8 to 8, and then maybe I took lunch, 2-hour lunch. People always say, oh, you took 2-hour lunch because you were taking the siesta, the nap. No, it's just, I mean, to me, it was more going to work is you're going to produce, but you're also going to have fun. Because if you hate your job and every time you wake in the morning, oh, I have to go there. No, I was actually always very excited to go to work in Venezuela because I wanted to see my friends. I wanted to do something different. Not that when I came to the US that I didn't feel that, but it was strange. I didn't feel that I belonged until recently, probably. And it's because it's probably that mentality that you have to be there um, in work, be a workaholic, and if you're not a workaholic, then you're sending the wrong message. And no, I think it's a matter of how you manage your time and how much you produce. I mean, I'm a much big believer in quality versus quantity.
Fantastic. I see that you have a mind of your own. And I think that's very important for a woman in a male-dominated sector. You must have a mind of your own, and you
Yeah.
must know exactly what you're doing. And you shouldn't be intimidated by anyone's opinion about what you're doing or who you are. That's great.
Yeah, the one thing that now the opposite, what was a big positive change is that Venezuela in general Latin America, and I think in other places, uh, uh, everything is very hierarchical. Like in Venezuela, you don't call someone by its name. You go, hey, Mr. This, or you ask for permission. Different things. May I, or your. And I remember the country manager in Venezuela. He was awesome. I still am in contact with him because he was an amazing leader, very very people oriented. And it's funny because I they put me a nickname. And my nickname in my first job, it was Florecita, so little flower.
What does that mean?
So, and the reason was because I was very tiny, skinny, and I had this curly hair, so I looked really like a flower, curly hair. So they always call me Florecita. So the country manager was calling me, hey, Florecita. And I was calling, hey, Mr. And I said, Florecita, you call me by my name because I'm just have a title, but I'm the same person. I'm the same level that you. I'm older, yes, but you don't have to call me Mr. or that. And then he told me like, okay, and here in the stadium and everything, never call anyone Mr. because then you're going to make them feel. So from now, even if the president or whatever, you call him by the name. And I
Ah,
started doing that. And especially when I came to the US, then you have that, hey, Mr. What? And then, no, Mr. Hey, John, or hey, that. And that was actually felt good. And I liked that here in the States with that. So it
and
was really, really good.
fantastic. So I know, Ileana, that you travel a lot. I think I met you for the first time in Ghana.
In Ghana,
And
yeah.
then yes, and then we've met. I know that you travel a lot because on LinkedIn I see you before the pandemic. I
Yeah.
saw you all over the world. So can you just tell me if you've suffered any discrimination during your travels, either going on a flight or checking into a hotel or in a taxi, or have you ever been exposed to some discrimination in a different country or in any context that you can share as a woman in a male-dominated sector who travels a lot?
Trying to think of a case where I felt probably I don't have any situation that it was a real discrimination or that. I mean, definitely not overseas. And I've been in Africa, in Asia, Europe, and some places in Latin America. But unfortunately, I have to say that the one time that I felt like they made me feel uncomfortable was when I entered a store here in the US, and like a nice store, and they kind of look at me, and I was talking to someone in Spanish, and someone said, oh, these Latin people or something like that. um, so the funny thing is that other Latin person that I was with, she spent a lot of money in that store. And so in a way, it's that bias that I don't know. I didn't, it didn't affect me, but I said, what why that, especially here in Houston, where you have a lot of Hispanic labs. So I don't know, but not really. I'm actually very conscious not to be disrespectful in countries where I'm not really familiar with their culture, like in the Middle East, or even I went to Mauritania, and I was so fascinated with the people, and I kind of rather ask for question and not pretend that I know about their culture. So I sat with one of my colleagues in Mauritania, men and women, and explained, can you explain me more about the, Muslim culture, why women some are covering their hair, but not the face, and some, and so they feel they feel really special and respected, that I'm so glad someone is really asking so directly and forward about our culture. People either don't know or ignore that, and that's where you make some of the mistakes of not being culturally tolerant or accepting. So I rather ask about something than making a mistake. And I mean, you can Google a lot of things, but I think asking directly the people about the culture and that sensitivity, it's better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So what do you have any advice for a woman in business or a young girl who is thinking of going into business in a male-dominated sector? Any advice for such a young girl?
Yeah, well, let me start with the part that I'm actually going through is with my daughter. So she was, I thought when she was in middle school, even in elementary school, that she was very artsy, and and she was good in languages, and very good at art. And I said, oh my God, she's gonna be like me, like humanities and all that. And then she started taking, AP, chemistry, physics, calculus, and I said, wow, that's awesome. And I said, I really am happy that my daughter doesn't have that fear or is afraid of, numbers or STEM careers. First, she liked it. And then she said, I want to be an engineer. And I said, no way. Awesome. Awesome. Because I actually took her to my my job, to my office, and he said, well, this is how it looks like. He did look, I took her to a lab and everything, and then one thing she is afraid of, she hasn't chosen where she's going to go, but one thing that she's not really sure about, one of the colleges, is that, well, there's the men women ratio is 70-30, so there's so many, many men and few women, and that's also that even better. So you're going to be unique, and this is wonderful, because you're going to have an opportunity to, to teach also men and these boys that how to work with women. I think she said, well, but I don't want to be treated special just because I'm a minority and everything. No, but the more we change that culture, that you have that opportunity, and that this industry is not, it's not a specific gender dominated, then that's cool. While I mean, I'm thinking of what with the opposite, when it's an industry dominated by female, and then why is it wrong when men chooses that area? But anyway, what I'm telling her is that you have a gift, you have an opportunity to change the world and to change how things are. So wouldn't be part of that, and I think she's looking at as an advantage, that she is changing the statistics, and she can prove that she can do the same. And I think women engineers, at least where I work, I mean, they're super smart and super, I mean, brilliant. So I think we need to make sure the path is open for them. Now, for the other part of your question, the business women, I have actually, because of part of my job, I have to interact a lot with them, and it's really, the message is overcoming their fears and being confident that they can do it. Don't be scared of the big buyers, the big names, because there are a lot of things that you provide that we are not used to. I mean, big companies tend to work with big companies too, but there's so much that is is lost because of all the politics and all the language and contracts and everything. So I think that we have a lot of good results with boutique businesses because they're small, they're more, dedicated to what they do. Um, I mean, it depends of the scope of what you're doing, but I think small companies have a lot more to offer of that personalized and that personal touch that when you go big, you don't have. So I like to highlight that advantage. And there's another thing that with the women-owned businesses. I have friends from high school and that they decided to open their own business. I mean, late in their career, and then I say, well, this is wonderful. They wait until, well, I need to wait until my kids are this. Why do you have to wait? Why do you think you're not able to do it? Oh, because I have the kids and everything. But what does your husband do? I mean, do you have to always sacrifice your part, your profession because you don't have help? In Latin America, we always have the help from our families, from both sides. When my mom was going to work, I stayed with one of my grandma and my other one with my dad. I understood, I mean, because he was a surgeon, so he had to be on call. But my mom kind of developed her career and we stayed at grandma's. Do we have that here? Do you have that? Everybody? No, not everybody has that. But I think now we need to kind of leave aside that sentiment, that feeling of guilt for not being there. I think I was there for my daughters when they were children. I won't say I was 100% there. My mom kind of covered that percentage, and my husband took a really big role in that. And that kind of has been great. They have a wonderful relationship with their dad, which I think it's amazing, and I value that so much. And also that allowed me to develop my career. So I think we need to make sure that we have a shared responsibility and that. And right now, look, we're working at home. There's so much that we can do now. The tolerance. I mean, you can be holding your baby. I was taking a course online, and there was a friend, a colleague that we were looking at, and we were listening to the professor, and she was holding her baby on mute, and then she wanted to ask a question, and she unmuted, and she asked a question. The baby was holding the microphone. Everybody was, oh my God, this is great. I'm sure nobody criticized her because everybody knows. I mean, what an amazing example is she setting to other women that I don't care if you think this is disrespectful. I mean, I think she was more, I don't know. I give her 100% credit because of being able to do that. I heard the other day, which is kind of shocked me a little bit because we women, we tend to say and proud to say that, oh, we can multitask. And someone that was talking about leadership and stress and time management said, well, multitasking is wrong because it can puts a lot of pressure in your brain or stuff, and you cannot do everything right. We haven't done that since history. Women have been multitasking. I mean, you were feeding your baby and you're doing other things. So I think it's part of our nature. And yeah, that we are always too tired. Yeah, but I mean, we recharge our batteries. We don't have an option. So I think that will never change. It's part of our nature.
Fantastic, fantastic. And then I have another question for you. What advice would you give your younger self? What would you do differently?
I always tell myself, never stop laughing. Don't let anyone steal your smile and your laugh for anything. And even when I was in high school, there's a word that I don't know how to look for a good word in English or other language that can define what we call rochela. Rochela, someone that is rochelero or rochelera is someone that it's always, making fun, being silly and laughing. And, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're not a serious person, but, you always find the fun. So I always was very rochelera at school, at the university. And, it's not that you're making fun of people, it's making fun of your situation. I even make a lot of fun of myself. And so there are some periods of your life that you go through difficult times that, when life puts you this test, and then you stop smiling, you feel sad. And then two occasions, two times in my life that I went through something very difficult, that situation stole my smile, my laugh. And until the last one that I said no, because I was very miserable. You kind of get depressed, and it's not you. And people tell you you're not yourself. And so I said, that's it. I'm not gonna have anyone or any situation steal my smile and my, that part of me that I
Rochella.
enjoy. Yeah, my Rochella. And even my mom used to enjoy my jokes, and I mean my Rochella, all the time. And then before she passed away, she told me, promise
Yeah.
me that you will not gonna be crying for a long time for me. It's hard, but
Wow. Wow. She must have been so sorry.
I
Yeah, oh, so sorry.
smile a lot
Yeah.
for her.
Oh,
So,
oh, that's so nice. So you have her on your table.
oh,
Oh,
she's everywhere. And yeah,
oh,
because I made that promise for her that I was not gonna cry
yeah.
for her. So
So sorry.
I laugh
Yeah.
a lot, um, for her. And,
Wow.
I'll still continue my Rochella. Even with her, I talk to her, and you know, I have a lot of fun. But that's another thing. Be you. You know, one thing that we tend to do is avoid crying in public, or crying in front of your boss and everything. We all cry. So that's another thing. Don't be
Mm,
afraid of showing your weakness, so showing that you have feelings,
mm, mm,
because really at the end we all want to be with people that understand us, that have the feelings, that
mm,
are, humans, not machines. um,
mm,
People that are machines, they don't have many followers.
mm.
So be you, smile,
Authentic.
laugh, and authentic, because really that's how people trust you. And in my job, I think that's one part that I have realized, that if you show yourself, um, people trust you at any level. And and I think that's very important. So that will be my
Mm.
main message.
No, you. I have to be honest with you. You have been so authentic. You've been so true to yourself, and to have adopted me as your mentee, and spent over 40 hours with me, just trying to help me navigate getting to this point of We Cubed and doing great things for other girls in STEM and women in engineering, energy, and entrepreneurship. I cannot but say thank you, thank you, thank you, Ileana. And I must say, it's been such a wonderful experience talking to you and having this conversation with you. I'm sure a lot of young girls will see you as a leader in the energy industry, who is authentic, true to herself, and hasn't quite become a different kind of person from her true self because she's in a male-dominated sector. So on behalf of We Cubed, Women in Engineering, Energy, and Entrepreneurship, I'll say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this wonderful conversation with me. I was truly grateful. Thank you so much, Ileana.